Good day to members of the media and the listening public.
Of our country. Over the past 12 months, we have strengthened systems, advanced reforms, and focused deliberately on execution. I am proud of the progress we have made. The latest annual GDP figures from the Department of Statistics for 2024 showed that our economy grew by 1.9%, experiencing 4 consecutive years of growth. The growth reflects progress we've made as a country. Even with global uncertainty, employment grew for a 4th year. Core indicators remain stable, and incomes continue to improve. More recently, the third quarter results released by the Department of Statistics underline that momentum. In the third quarter of 2025, the economy grew by 9.9% in real terms, the strongest quarterly performance since 2021. Taken together, these results show an economy that not only grows, but strengthens. However, our work is not finished. There is more to be done to ensure Bermuda remains competitive, that opportunity expands to our people, and that economic growth translates into lasting benefits for Bermudians. Today, I am pleased to present the 2026-27 budget overview for the Ministry of Economy and Labor under the theme, Responsible Choices, Lasting Benefits for Bermudians. This budget reflects discipline, execution, and measurable progress. It strengthens Bermuda's economic foundation while investing in the systems that drive long-term competitiveness, workforce resilience, and regulatory integrity. Our mandate remains clear. We are building a modern, competitive economy that creates opportunities for Bermudians, supports business growth, and protects the stability of our labor market. This year's budget advances the mandate across 6 strategic pillars: investment attraction and economic diversification, local business growth and entrepreneurship, workforce development and labor market stability, data-driven policy and national statistics, regulatory modernization and institutional strengthening, and immigration services. Investment promotion and economic competitiveness. In 2025, the Bermuda Business Development Agency completed its transition to a performance-led investment promotion agency. With $4.3 million allocated, the BDA is now operating with structured pipeline management, economic impact modeling, and disciplined sector engagement. The BDA has strengthened international engagement in key markets while simultaneously deepening structured aftercare. Supporting Bermuda's businesses, BEDC. The Bermuda Economic Development Corporation continues to serve a critical partner to Bermuda's entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized enterprises. It has been allocated a budget of $2.2 million. Through financial assistance, advisory service, and targeted programs, BEDC supports business formation, expansion, and resilience. A priority for BEDC in 2026-27 is implementation of the National Entrepreneurship Strategy for Bermuda. Entrepreneurship is one of the most important drivers of job creation and economic growth. It is crucial for the development of a vibrant, formal, small, and medium-sized business sector. The proactive role of any government is supporting entrepreneurship. It requires a systematic approach, which the strategy will ensure. Strengthening local enterprise strengthens economic sovereignty. Economic development. The Economic Development Department, with a budget allocation of $1.4 million, seeks to make Bermuda more business-friendly and supportive of those who wish to invest. It links with activities of the BDA and the BEDC, advancing sector strategy, entrepreneurship, and economic reform initiatives. A primary focus of the department in 2026-27 is the development of a digital economy strategy for Bermuda. This will set a vision to establish the island as a globally recognized, innovation-driven digital economy that empowers its people and attracts strategic investment and enables sustainable, inclusive growth. These initiatives will enhance Bermuda's global competitiveness and unlock the next wave of strategic investment. Workforce development. A resilient economy requires a prepared workforce. The Department of Workforce Development has been allocated $4.7 million to enhance structured workforce integration and skills alignment. The modernized Bermuda Job Connect platform presents a significant advancement in labor market intelligence. For the first time, we are capturing real-time data on job seeker activity, employer demand, and student pipelines. These allow proactive workforce planning rather than reactive response. By the end of March 2026, the Career Development section is expected to exceed performance targets in expanding youth engagement and strengthening employer partnerships. Structured programs such as the Bridge to Work, the Graduate Apprenticeship Program, and on-the-job training have delivered measurable placement outcomes. National certification and apprenticeship programs continue to advance industry-aligned training, including renewable energy and high-demand technical occupations. A particular focus for the upcoming year, expanding apprenticeship opportunities and placement available to Bermudians, and strengthening the hospitality workforce through training and development. The department will also relocate to the Bermuda College campus, strengthening alignment between education and employment pathways. Labor market stability. A stable labor environment is fundamental to investor confidence and social cohesion. The Department of Labor plays a critical role in maintaining the balance within Bermuda's world of work. With $1.4 million allocated, the department continues to enforce statutory protections, conciliate employment disputes, and support industrial harmony. In the coming year, the Department of Labor will continue to monitor the effects of legislative changes that they have placed on the working population and keep abreast of international best practices to ensure that our national legislation is up to date and protection of employee rights are and remain on the forefront. In this regard, the department has finalized a legislative proposal to strengthen the enforcement authority of the Employment and Labor Relations Tribunal. Data and evidence, Department of Statistics. The Department of Statistics has been allocated $4.6 million, a significant portion of which is to execute the 2026 Census of Population and Housing. The census is not a routine administrative exercise. It is a fundamental for national planning, fiscal forecasting, housing policy, healthcare capacity, and labor force analysis. Beyond the census, the department continues to produce Bermuda's core economic publications, retail sales, consumer price indices, GDP statistics, and labor force reports, all aligned with international standards. Digital accessibility by improved public engagement has expanded, and response rate targets continue to be effectively managed. Evidence-based policy requires credible, timely, and internationally aligned data. This budget ensures that capacity. Registry General and regulatory modernization. The Department of Registry General has been allocated $2.2 million to maintain vital records, intellectual property protection, and oversight of legal registrations. This year continues the modernization of intellectual property systems, including the final phase of a new technology-based platform for the automation of administrative processes for patents, trademarks, designs, and international registrations. The registry work protects intellectual property rights, maintains public records integrity, and strengthens Bermuda's reputation as a well-regulated jurisdiction. Immigration. The The Department of Immigration plays a vital role in supporting Bermuda's people, businesses, and community. With a budget of $7.1 million, the department remains focused on delivering efficient, fair, and timely immigration services while upholding the law and protecting the public interest. We are also moving forward with our digitization initiative, which is a key priority for the department. A project manager is being hired to advance the modernization of our application processes. This work will improve accessibility, transparency, and turnaround times for the public and our stakeholders. And on the topic of immigration, I will take this opportunity to announce changes to closed and restricted job categories, which directly impact two key business sectors in Bermuda: hospitality and aviation. For some time now, I have engaged with various industry sectors regarding the challenge of filling certain positions. As it is well known, Bermuda has reached a point of statistical full employment. With an aging population and an expanding economy, is causing unavoidable labor shortages in some sectors. Therefore, after discussion with business leaders and our union partners, the following changes will be made effective 1st of March, 2026. For hospitality, bartenders will move from the closed to restricted job category for restaurants and hotels only. And room attendants will move from the closed to the restricted job category. These job categories will remain in the restricted job category for a period of 1 year. For aviation, airline ground agent, passenger service agent, aircraft licensing mechanic, and cabin service agents will be in the closed job categories, and aviation security guard, ramp agent, ramp senior operator, GSE apprentice mechanic, GSE licensed mechanic, and GSE body and paint tech will be in the restricted job category. The maximum duration of a restricted job work permit will shift from a maximum of 1 year to a maximum of 2 years for all job categories. To safeguard the availability of jobs for Bermudians, employers in the hospitality and aviation sectors must monitor the number of work permit holders they hire and report to the ministry annually when employment levels reach a 50% Bermudian threshold. All positions will be required to be advertised to ensure that suitably qualified Bermudians are given first opportunity. Additionally, the hospitality sector will be required to do a career fair. I would like to thank the business owners, unions, and others who work together to develop sustainable solutions to strengthen Bermuda's workforce. In closing, the 2026-27 budget for the Ministry of Economy and Labor, which totals $29.1 million, is about structural strength. The systems are getting stronger, the data is more robust, the workforce pipeline is clearer, the investment framework is more strategic. Economic progress is not accidental. It is built deliberately and responsibly. Most importantly, it reflects the ministry's commitment to ensure that economic growth translates into opportunities, stabilities, and responsible choices, and lasting benefits for Bermudians. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. At this time, we welcome questions from the media.
Morning, Minister. Alvis Solomon from the Royal Gazette. You just mentioned some changes to the labor force, effective March 1st. Could you say if that was following discussions recently, I think, or sometime early this month with the Bermuda Chamber of Commerce? And also, the Chamber had recommended the formation of a multi-sectoral committee sort of thing to address labor issues. Is that a suggestion that the ministry or the government would support?
To the first question, the ongoing stakeholder consultation with the hospitality industry has been ongoing for some time. You would know that we recently had a hospitality summit where I brought all stakeholders in the room We discussed the numbers as it pertains to the shortages. We discussed the numbers as it pertains to some of the challenges. At that point in time, the industry would have asked for roughly around 8 closed job categories to open up. The data strongly supported 2 of those job categories. Those 2 job categories were bartenders and room attendants. As a result of that, and in dialogue with our union partners, we made the decision that we can ease the restrictions on those 2 particular job categories. And what we'll do is monitor those job categories over a 1-year period of time to determine the impact it's having on the local labor market. But the hospitality changes are primarily driven by the opening of Fairmont Southampton. Right. Fairmont Southampton will require, when fully operational, over 700 employees. The Ministry of Economy and Labor is mandating that at least 50% of those employees have to be Bermudian. As a result of that and our low unemployment rate, it means that the establishment will pull workers from all other hospitality categories. And if you do not open up those categories to expatriate labor, what you're going to do is create shortages throughout the entire industry. So it's a measured approach that we're taking, but we're going to monitor the results. To ensure that Bermudians are given an opportunity, all jobs must be advertised, and also we're asking the hospitality industry to do a career fair so that we ensure that all suitably qualified Bermudians get first opportunities to the jobs that actually exist. As it pertains to aviation, I would have had conversations with the aviation sector over a period of time. Just like with uniformed services, they have challenge with filling the role of aviation security officers. And so those aviation security officers will not be opening up the security guard areas, but will only be permitted, those aviation security officers will only be permitted to work at the airport. And then there were some other areas as pertains to ground staff. We wasn't too keen on opening up positions in the front end, but it's the back end staff, those ones that service the airplanes directly, that we are prepared to open up some positions on. We've had consultation with all stakeholders, we've had consultation with the union, and we're taking a measured approach moving forward.
But do you support the formation of a committee to address those needs?
And so we have a Workforce Development Advisory Board.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Commerce sits on the Workforce Development Advisory Board, and in that board we also have a hospitality subcommittee which is responsible for mapping out the training and development strategies for the hospitality sector. And so I believe the Chamber put that out, but now their participation is more earnest in our committees, and they see that we have a structure in place that allows for us to have that dialogue. Additionally, the Chamber of Commerce sits on the Labor Advisory Council. The Labor Advisory Council is also will discuss labor relations matters, and so we do have the mechanisms in place. Right. And if they want a topic to be discussed, they simply need to submit that as an agenda item.
Understand.
The needs that we have.
And the Minister of Housing and Municipalities, Mr. De Silva, mentioned this week of the need for or a plan by the government to construct 282 homes over the next 18 months, I think. Do you foresee probably an increase in applications for work permits for people to fill the labor gap?
Certainly, if we have large-scale construction projects and we have a very low unemployment rate, it means that if we cannot draw the labor from the domestic economy, then we would have to bring in greater levels of expatriate labor. And so if there is robust construction activity taking place, it will be a reasonable assumption to assume that we would have to bring in more labor because we can't find the labor in our domestic workforce. But we will ensure that all suitably qualified Bermudians get an opportunity to work in those particular areas. We've seen the same with the construction at Fairmont Southampton. Right. You know, the contractors have done multiple job fairs and tried to engage the local population to get on the site. Notwithstanding that, they still wasn't able to fill their labor demand domestically.
I just have a last question on the labor force as well. You had mentioned a couple of years ago, I think 2022, that there was a need for about 8,000 people to bring the workforce up to par. I think you had revised that number, or you had made a comment saying that in the year that followed, there was an increase of 293, I think, for that particular year. Do you know what's like the requirement or the numbers that are required now in total?
So the best estimation we're going to get is when we complete the census. So this year is census year. In May 2020 will be census day. Once we collect the census data, we will know our exact population levels for our seniors population. Once we get the number of seniors within our population, then we will have to determine what is the workforce required to support the seniors. We will look at the early age dependency ratio as a key measure of that, but then we will work backwards from that ratio to determine what is our labor force needs to support our seniors population.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Gary Foster Skelton, Bermuda Broadcasting. Just wanted to touch on a couple of the items and the Bermuda Business Development Agency. For one, focusing more on promotion and diversity. I wondered, what are the markers of success that will be? Will we get to know the specific targets you have for the BDA and if they're meeting them?
And so the BDA internally has specific targets and key indicators that they follow in terms of engagement, marketing reach. It's metrics across a number of key areas. And so in the annual report, they actually put out their key successes and things of that nature. So I'll ask you to stay tuned to the release of the annual report, and you can see the progress that they're actually making. You can see their strategic pillars that they have set, and you can see how they've worked to accomplish their targets within those particular pillars.
So we'll see how its internal change into more of a promotion agency will look once we see those reports.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the 200,000 plus two workforce programs that was mentioned in the budget, it did mention funds will be strengthened local and overseas apprenticeship training. I was just wondering about the overseas apprenticeship training and what strengthening. Will there be any new overseas programs, or what might be coming in the new year, in the next year?
So it's all based on demand. Apprentice has dialogue with the Department of Workforce Development and says, this is my area of focus. If they are paired with an employer, we determine whether or not that person's training can take place domestically or whether or not they need to go overseas to have that training. And so when we're talking about overseas apprenticeship programs, we're talking about when we partner with locals, and then we are able to send those individuals overseas so that they can upskill and get the certifications that they require to be effective in their jobs.
Thank you. And then there was talking about the Registry General getting extra funds to capitalize on revenue opportunities in the Trademarks Act. So how might that look in terms of those new revenue streams? What is there to capitalize on there?
So once you have the proper framework in place for intellectual property and trademarks, then you're able to be a jurisdiction where persons are registering their trademarks in your particular jurisdiction. And then when you have the sale of goods in those jurisdictions, persons know that the goods are protected in the jurisdictions because there is trademark laws. Countries where there are no trademark laws, those particular countries, because there is no protection against the fraudulent goods that may be sold in those particular areas. And so having a strong IP legislation allows for more services and businesses to be registered in Bermuda and have their trade actually taking place on the island.
Okay. Do you think a lot of those funds will be going towards more staff for Registry General, or how will those funds be utilized?
And so we are strengthening the staff as it pertains to IP, but we also strengthening the systems, and that's an important part of what we're funding in this particular year.
Okay. And you also spoke about the strengthening of the labor tribunals, authority in our environment. what might they be able to do after you strengthen their authority that they can't do now?
Probably issue civil penalties. So where one has been provided with an award and the employer has failed to pay that award, the only recourse that an employee or grieved employee has is to go to the courts at this point in time. But if you give the tribunal more teeth, then the tribunal can issue civil penalties on its own. And so that will act as an incentive for employers to pay their awards in a timely manner.
And so we expect to see that legislated this year.
Yes.
Right. And just touching on the immigration and the changes to the restricted and closed job categories, you touched on the fact that you are making an agreement with the Fairmont Southampton, which you spoke to me about a couple of weeks ago, an MOU to be signed that 50% of the workforce there, the employees there, rather, will be must be Bermudian. When will that MOU be signed?
We are still in conversation with the operators of the hotel, and so when we finish our deliberations, we'll sign off on that MOU, but it should be within the next month or so because they have to begin to ramp up their staffing immediately.
And then you also said about the monitoring of those categories that you've moved from closed to restricted, such as bartenders. The employees must monitor and alert you. They only need to alert you if the number is at risk, a number of Bermudians in those jobs is at risk of falling below 50%. Is that correct?
Correct. So when the employment levels reach a 50% threshold, is a mandatory reporting into the ministry.
Okay.
So that we can monitor and understand the factors as to why that is taking place. It could be, and the establishment has expanded, and as a result of expansion, then they require more staff. But what we don't want to see is displacement, and we get to a point where we're doing nothing about displacement. It should be complementing the local labor and not displacing the local labor. And so we will monitor that over the year, and where we see unreasonable displacement, we will discontinue issuing permits for that establishment.
Okay. And you spoke to my media colleague about the fact that stakeholders had come to you and asked about 8 job categories, and you only chose 2. Are you willing to give us any insight into the other 6 and why you determined, no, it's not the time to move these jobs out of the closed or restricted categories?
So the guest service agents that's on the front desk of a hotel when you arrive and check you in, that was a request. But when we looked at the numbers, it wasn't a challenge with hiring individuals in those particular positions. The challenges were with retaining persons in those particular positions, and so there was a high turnover rate.
Okay.
This is a job category that we know that Bermudians are willing and able to do those particular jobs. And so the solution to that was work with workforce development so that we can better scale up persons to transition into that particular job categories. Further conversation as to how we look at exit interviews to determine the reason why persons are actually leaving. And if they're leaving because of cultural conditions or whether or not they're scheduling, then have further discussions as how the union can work directly with employers to change the culture or to have more flexible scheduling, which makes it more attractive to Bermudians.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Sorry, Minister, I just have one question to follow up. On the Fairmont Southampton Hotel, the employment numbers, you just mentioned that it should be, there's a 50% Bermudians, but I think the Fairmont Southampton Act of 2023 says it should be at least 70% through years 6 to 15. Could you just comment on the number being at 50, and what is the government going to do, or if there was a revision of the numbers there, and why?
And so what we want to do is see that number progress upwards, and so we're going to scale that number up, and so starting at 50 and then we work towards that numbers, but it's 2 separate different things. The labor MOU is independent of the Tourism Investment Act. The Tourism Investment Act has thresholds in which they need to meet to receive benefits. Notwithstanding that, if they can't meet those thresholds, then obviously they won't be fulfilling the requirements of that particular act. But from an MOU standpoint, we're saying what is reasonable for the first year of operations, understanding that the domestic employees that they require will have to be pulled from other areas within the economy. The firm of Southampton has also indicated that they will do international career fairs to try to draw Bermudians back that are in other hospitality establishments worldwide.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no further questions from the media. That concludes the press conference.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day, and thank you for joining us.